Gary C. Johnson is a personal injury attorney practicing in Pikeville, Hazard, and Central Kentucky. You can reach him at 1-800-337-4002. Life is a journey, and everyone deserves all the happiness that this life has to offer. That's why attorney Gary C. Johnson created a weekly radio program almost 20 years ago to look at ways that we can improve our relationships, our health, and most important, our frame of mind. You know, by having the right information, our choices can be easier, and so can our happiness. Welcome to this edition of Simply Life with Gary C. Johnson.
Hello, everyone. Welcome into the radio program, Simply Life. I'm Keith Casebolt, and the gentleman who created this and tries to make our life more simple and happy, my friend, Gary C. Johnson.
Wonderful, as usual, to be here, my friends.
No place I'd rather be.
How you guys and gals doing out there? Huh? Okay?
Don't you just feel, Gary, that people are getting a little bit happier, that, there's only 6 more weeks of bad weather, and then it's going to be spring, the vaccine is out, things are looking up.
Remember, this is the year that all of my friends are going to learn to be happy.
Even if we have to take some kicking and screaming.
That's right. There will be happiness, my friends, simply because you know that you're going to make that choice. Today I want to talk to you a little bit about a book, Think and Grow Rich, by a fellow by the name of Napoleon Hill. I think he's from southern West Virginia, right, Keith?
Actually from southwest Virginia.
Southwest Virginia?
Yeah, near Wise County.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And the title of that book is much like the Dale Carnegie book. It really should be Think and Grow Happy.
You're right.
Instead of rich.
Well, he probably figured more people would buy it if it said and grow rich rather than and grow happy.
He probably realized at that time a lot of people would rather have the money than be happy. Yeah,
but this very wealthy man was very, very poor. Grew up in a home that didn't even have a floor. This guy's got something to share with us that we might want to listen to, right?
When your floor is dirt, mm-hmm. and that's the way you were raised, yes, I think you've learned something.
He talks about our basic fears that prevents us from doing things. I'm going to read the 6 basic fears that he's come up with. The fear of poverty.
Oh, the biggest.
Number 2, the fear of criticism. How many times have we said on our show that that's what keeps people from going forward most of the time? What will they say? Okay? Whoever they are.
Yeah, they're going...
And speaking of they... My friends, let's revisit that for just a second.
Please do. It's one of my favorite subjects.
The next time that someone is giving you advice or talking to you and you hear them say, they say, stop right then and say, who are they? And they never have an answer.
Listen.
Because they is a figment of our imagination.
I got to tell our friends, what was it, about 2 or 3 months ago, I came to you and I said, oh, did you hear what happened? And I went through this big news story. And I said, they said, this is what happened. And you looked at me and said, you broke the rule. And I said, what are you talking about? You said, who are they, Keith? I said, hell, I have no idea. And here I was repeating something that obviously turned out to be false. It was not true. But I had taken it for the gospel truth and even put it out to you about what do you think about this, and I didn't even know where it came from.
The sin you committed was not to question it.
Not to look at the facts or to look up the information and see if it was really true. I just took it.
Because they say.
Because they said it was true. And because they said it, I guess I believed it, yeah.
Number 3, right under the fear of criticism is the fear of ill health. Number 4, the loss of love of someone. Number 5, which is a real fear, the fear of old age.
Isn't that true?
And the last one, believe it or not, is the fear of death. So let's go back up.
Yeah.
Fear of poverty, number 1.
That is the biggest of all of them.
Fear of criticism, number 2. Now that is something really really powerful when you think about it.
It's eye-opening. I would have thought the fear of death and the fear of ill health would have been 1 and 2, but it's actually not. It's of being poor and being criticized. Gary, if there's one fear that's on that list that should be eradicated immediately, shouldn't it be the fear of criticism?
There shouldn't even be a fear. He goes on and talks about the symptoms of the fear of criticism.
Now, this is
So,
what...
my friends, if any of you've got this, I'm going to give you the symptoms. Not necessarily the cure, but the symptoms.
Because you feel like we may have a friend that says, oh, anybody can say anything they want, it doesn't bother me. Well, wait till you hear the symptoms.
Number 1 is self-consciousness, generally expressed through nervousness, timidity in conversation, and in meeting strangers, awkward movement of the hands and limbs, shifting of the eyes. That's a symptom of the fear of criticism.
We've all done that.
Okay.
We've all done that.
Number 2 is lack of poise, expressed through lack of voice control, nervousness in the presence of others, poor posture of body, and poor memory.
If you've ever stood in front of a crowd to speak...
Most of your poor memory problems aren't really memory problems. You know what they are? You weren't paying attention.
In other words, you didn't listen the first time.
Yeah, you didn't pay attention, therefore you can't remember it. Personality is the next one. Lacking in firmness of decision, personal charm, and ability to express opinions definitively. The habit of sidestepping issues instead of meeting them squarely, agreeing with others without careful examination of their opinions. You have a fear of criticism when you act in that way.
Afraid to make a decision.
Right.
Because the decision could be criticized.
And here's some that is really easy to fall into. The next one. Again, we're talking about the symptoms of the fear of criticism. The next one is an inferiority complex. That's the habit of expressing self-approval by word of mouth and by actions as a means of covering up a feeling of inferiority. Using big words to impress others, often without knowing any real meaning of the words. Imitating others in dress, speech, and manner. Boasting of imaginary achievements, and sometimes give a surface appearance of a feeling of superiority. That's an inferiority complex.
I think we have all been around that situation at one time or another when bigger words were used than necessary.
I was in a seminar probably 25 years ago, and they were having lawyers get up and practice. And I'll never forget this one guy. He was so pompous. He had dressed to the hilt.
Yeah.
And he talked in a language that no human being would ever be able to comprehend, especially a jury. And I tried to talk to him about it, and he got mad that this is the only way to do this, and I know it is. So I quit trying to talk to him about it.
So he's talking to 12 people, and he's using vocabulary that they would have never understood.
That he probably didn't even understand.
May have looked up the words just before he got there to try to throw them in.
The next symptom of the fear of criticism, my friends, is extravagance. The habit of trying to keep up with the Joneses, spending beyond one's income.
Whoa.
That is a symptom of the fear of criticism. I would have never known that.
Well, if you don't keep up with the Joneses, people are going to talk, aren't they? They're going to say, they're not doing too well.
You know, they may talk about me.
Yeah, they haven't upgraded.
Right.
They haven't bought new stuff.
Next one's lack of initiative is a symptom of criticism. Failure to embrace opportunities for self-advancement, fear to express opinions, lack of confidence in one's own ideas, giving evasive answers to questions asked by superiors, hesitancy of manner and speech, deceit in both words and deeds, lack of initiative.
Gary, I've seen that on several levels of people who were offered promotions and they turned them down. Secretly, they wanted the promotion, they wanted the job title, they wanted the money, but they said, I wouldn't be able to do it.
Fear of failure.
Fear of failure. And that insecurity of thinking that I may not be able to do it caused them to turn that great opportunity down.
His next one is, and last one, fear of criticism ends up with a lack of ambition. Mental and physical laziness, lack of self-assertion, slowness in reaching decision, easily influenced by others, the habit of criticizing others behind their backs and flattering them to their faces. Let me read that one again. A sign of symptoms of the fear of criticism is when you criticize others behind their backs and flatter them to their faces. The habit of accepting defeat without protest, quitting an undertaking when opposed by others, suspicious of other people without cause, lacking in tactfulness of manner and speech, unwilling to accept the blame for mistakes.
What a great analogy there. So you're doing nothing so you can't be criticized, and then to make yourself feel good about it, you're going behind the back of the people who are trying to do something
And criticizing
them.
But you're bragging on them to their face.
Oh, you're a good ball player, but
That doesn't mean you're a bad person.
yeah.
That means you have a fear of criticism, and that fear is controlling your actions.
Yeah. So you could have said, he's a pretty good ball player, but had I wanted to go out for the team, I would have been a lot better than him. So you didn't go out for the team, but you're criticizing the guy.
Mm-hmm.
Or, yeah, he's a pretty good teacher, but if I had become a teacher, I would have been a much better teacher. But you didn't do anything because you were afraid of the criticism.
Then he's got a bunch of self-analysis questions that he says in this book that you should ask yourself and take the time to really give an honest answer. And I'm going to share a few of those with my friends just to see if you want to answer them. My friends, okay. Does life seem futile and the future hopeless to you? And if so, why?
I would answer absolutely not. I would answer absolutely not. I think when you open up the program with, it is so good to be here, that's my answer. I am happy to be here.
Do you often feel self-pity, and if so, why?
Well, there was probably a time I did, and it was because I didn't know any better. That's the truth.
Okay. To which do you devote the most time, thinking of success or a failure?
I think if we all answered that truthfully, we would say failure because of the fear. I really admire the people that say, I'm going to do this and it's going to be great, because most of us are like, I'll try it, but I'm not sure it's going to work.
Right. Next question, are you gaining or losing self-confidence as you grow older?
I am older. I'm white-headed now. And as you get older, you realize all those big problems and all those big fears are really not that important. So I would say as I'm getting older, I'm gaining more confidence because I realize the small things are just small things, and they're all small things.
The next one he's got on self-analysis. Do you learn something of value from all your mistakes?
Amen. If it stings, you do. And to all of our friends, please let me tell you, I went to Gary probably 20 years ago with a problem I had, and at the time I thought it was earth-shattering. And Gary just smiled and he said, "Did it sting?" And I said, "What are you talking about?" And he said, "Did it sting? Did it hurt?" I said, "Oh yeah." He said, "Well, good. You won't make that mistake again." So, and you told me the truth. If the mistake you make hurts bad enough, you'll avoid it in the future at all cost. I promise you that.
And hopefully you'll never make them again.
Hopefully you'll never make it again.
His next question is, are you permitting some relative or acquaintance to worry you? And if so, why?
That's a good question for people, because I hear that all the time. Well, they're family. I have to try to help, or they're friends. I have to try to help them with their problems, not realizing that they can't fix their problems. They're only sometimes getting into the misery of the problem.
How many times have we said on this show that you're responsible for your happiness and no one else's? Most, unless it's somebody that you absolutely have to take care of, you have no responsibility for their problems.
It's tough to do, but once you realize it, I mean, your happiness is the most important thing.
Okay, next one. Are you sometime in the clouds and at other times in the depths of despondency?
I would think that most people would answer that sometimes a cloud just comes over you and you don't know why. And through and by some of the things that you've taught on this program, hopefully now, I know, and I hope our friends know, that when you feel that cloud come over, you got to push it away. You got to stop and say, I'm not going here.
You've got to counter it with an equally positive statement.
100%.
Otherwise, a cloud will consume you.
And, and I will tell our friends, no one does that better than you. And you do it as an example to me with the weather all the time. You'll come in, and no matter what the weather is, if it's raining, you'll go, man, we sure did need a good rain. If the wind's blowing, you go, I want you to look at that wind. If the sun, it doesn't matter what it is, but you're always positive with whatever the conditions are.
It feels better.
Well, we got a snow the other day, and you said, boy, isn't it beautiful when it snows? and I see you do that.
Okay, next one. Do you tolerate negative or discouraging influences which you can avoid?
That's a big mistake to do.
Amen.
That's a big mistake to do. I mean, pick out the people in your life that make you feel good and try to stay around them as much as you can.
Next one's an interesting one. How many preventable disturbances annoy you, and why do you tolerate them?
That one is good because we use the term, I have to take that call. Mm-hmm. I have to return that email. I have to answer that text. You don't really have to.
It goes back to when I was county attorney. It's probably 30 years ago. This woman called me, and she wanted to know what to do about this guy that was calling her on the phone and harassing her. And I listened. And I finally said to her, I said, well, why don't you hang up? And her response was, can I do that?
So the guy's calling her and harassing her, and she's holding the phone and keeping the conversation going.
Yeah. Never occurred to her to hang up.
Yeah.
Okay. Have you developed a method by which you can shield yourself against the negative influences of others?
Gary, that's a great question, because I think that's the one thing that you have given our listeners over the years, for everyone that's listened to this program. And I even told you that. You gave us a shield that kind of almost made you like one of these superheroes when you said that the words can't hurt you and the criticism can't hurt you. And when you gave us the principles of never criticize, condemn, or complain, and all of these things, and not to take anything personal, that was a real shield. And all of those little steps, the 24-hour rule, everything that you have taught on this program ended up being like Superman's cape as far as I'm concerned, because once you abide by them, you really don't get insulted, you don't get your feelings hurt, you don't get mad. It doesn't bother you.
I'm going to read that one again. Have you a method by which you can shield yourself against the negative influence of others? Just remember, my friends, no one can make you miserable without your permission.
Other than...
Except your children.
Yes. The exception to the rule, right? Your kids.
Well, every rule has an exception. So withdraw permission. That's the easiest way in the world to deal with this one. Just withdraw permission from them. Say, I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to, in my mind or any other way, shape, or form, I am not going to go to your negative thoughts.
Isn't that the most powerful statement, though, what you just said? That you can actually be able to look at somebody and say, I'm sorry, I have to withdraw your permission to make me miserable. I just can't give it to you.
Here's one I want my friends to think about, okay?
Okay.
And I'm reading from Self-Analysis Test Questions from the book Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. Great book. I recommend it to anyone.
It's thought-provoking.
Which do you value most, your material possessions or your privilege of controlling your own thoughts?
Gary, up until probably 2 or 3 months ago, I would have told you the material possessions. And in the last 3 or 4 months, on topics that you and I have talked about, I would pass along to my friends that your material possessions could never add up to the value of controlling your own thoughts.
I agree with that. If you learn to control your own thoughts, you will have all the possessions you want.
Probably a whole lot more.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Next one, doing an analysis of yourself. Do you usually finish everything you began? Next one, do you change your mind often? If so, why?
You know, I like what Napoleon Hill did on this. He basically laid out these questions so that you can really get to know who you are. If you answer them correctly or honestly, put it that way.
Do you cater to people because of their social or financial status?
Well,
folks, I want you to think about this one. Do you think someone is a better person than maybe you or others you know because of their status, politician, political or whatever, or their finances? If you do, you're wrong.
But now let's be honest. If we're going to be honest, whenever they show the royal family on television, what do? We tune in. I would say that most of us would have to answer that honestly, that yes, we have.
Well, my friends are not going to do that anymore. Okay?
I'm with you there.
Because they're as good as anybody.
100%.
And nobody's better than them. I don't care how much money they got or what their social standing is. Period. So, my friends, in our effort to be happy, we are never, ever, ever going to forget our own self-worth and realize that the good Lord decided for us to be born, and we're as good as anybody.
If you're going to cater to somebody who's standing on their feet and working 10 hours to give service to you whenever you go to buy something or sit down to have a meal.
That's exactly right.
That's somebody to cater to.
Here's a good one. Does your religion help you to keep your own mind positive? Good question.
It's something to ask. Yeah. Is it positive or is it negative?
Here's this one. Do you feel it is your duty to share other people's worries? If so, why? And that's what I'm saying. That is absolutely, my friends, not your duty.
Gary,
you got enough of your own worries to worry about without fooling with somebody else's.
I knew an individual one time who would show up and they would be tore all to pieces over this person that was going through a divorce or something. And I would say, oh, they're a close relative? No. Close friend? No. Did you go to school with them? No. How do you know them? Oh, I just know of them. But they would be completely all out of sorts over somebody they really had no interaction with.
Next question. Do you form your own opinions or permit yourself to be influenced by other people? Did you see those influencers on TV and podcasts and all that on the news? Those are influencers that are making a lot of money to get you to follow along with their opinions. Therefore, my friends, henceforth, you're going to get the information, you're going to Google it, you're going to do whatever you need, and you're going to form your own opinions.
Boy, now that's powerful. So you'll get rid of the "they said" by replacing it with "I read, I looked, I researched, and I came up with this opinion on my own." That's pretty powerful, isn't it?
And you can do it. There's all kinds of information out there. And if you just sit in front of a TV and watch either CNN or Fox News, you're making a mistake, my friend, because those people are paid big money to get you to continue watching them by spewing stuff at you.
So they have to sensationalize everything.
They have to sensationalize it. And one of them got sued, and the defense was, well, I don't tell the truth.
More or less saying it's a show.
Yeah, it's a show. It's not surely you didn't believe me.
Yeah.
And yet it was told, and it was one of those news, on Fox News is where it's at.
Yeah. I was listening to a talk radio show the other day traveling back from your office in Lexington, and the guy that was on, he was pumping people so hard on a local issue. And that was his job, to get callers, to do the show. Mm-hmm. He was trying to pump everybody up and make them as angry as he could, and it sure enough worked. They started calling in, and they were spouting out the anger. Mm-hmm. But that was part of his job, to do the show.
If you fall into all those traps that life sets for you,
yep,
you will tend to not be happy.
And again, as you started this program, the goal of this year is to be happier.
That's our resolution.
Yes, it is.
And my friends, we're going to do it. And you're going to have to put up with me reading a bunch of stuff to you probably over the next year.
Let's just put it this way as we conclude the program. You had one gentleman that emailed you or talked to you and said, "Gary, I hold grudges, and it makes me happy." And you said, "Okay, if you want to hold a grudge and you want to do all that and it makes you happy, go ahead."
But I can promise you, folks, that holding a grudge will, regardless of what he said, never make you happy. Turn it loose, let it go, move on, take control of your life, because if you're holding a grudge, someone else has some control over you.
Great program, and the list of the symptoms of criticism were really eye-opening to realize that words could do that much to you. If you want to catch Gary's television program, Simply the Law, it's Tuesday nights on WYMT in all of Eastern Kentucky at 7 p.m. A late-night replay is on WKYT, your CBS affiliate in Central Kentucky. We start your morning early on Mondays on the Fox affiliate, 6:30 a.m., and start the weekend on Friday mornings at 6:30 a.m. If you need to get in touch with Gary, it's Gary@GaryCJohnson.com. Sure would like to hear from you. My friend, wonderful program.
So glad to be alive to share my little old simple thoughts with my wonderful friends out there. Thank you guys and gals for listening.
It's all about being happy. On behalf of Gary C. Johnson, I'm Keith Casebold. Thank you so much for tuning in. As always, Gary and I look forward to seeing you again next week, right here at this same time.
Thanks for listening to Simply Life with attorney Gary C. Johnson. If you'd like to reach the Gary C. Johnson Law Firm, you can call 1-800-337-4002. Until next week, may you be safe, healthy, and happy. And most of all, remember that you're unique and a gift from God. If you'd like to receive a podcast of this week's show or any future show, go to GaryCJohnson.com and sign up today. Thanks for listening to Simply Life.